And you are live.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to call the Rules Committee meeting to order. And if we could please, Ms. Viviana, we'll have a roll call.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Here.
Amobian.
Here.
Connor.
Here.
Malik.
Aye.
All committee members are present.
All right, thank you. And if I could have a motion to accept the minutes from the previous meeting, please.
So move.
Second.
move.
We have motion second. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. All right, if we can continue to take time, we have one item on the old agenda and continue to take time. And then Sarah, I would ask if you could please read in the item we have today.
Sure. Item number 0 is offered by Mayor Horrigan, President Somerville, Councilwoman Baylor, Councilwoman Holland, and Councilwoman Connor. Resolution expressing council support for Akron Public Schools Superintendent Christine Fowler-Mack, urging the Akron Public Schools Board of Education to withdraw and revisit its remarks criticizing Superintendent Fowler-Mack and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. I do see we have President Somerville. Mr. Somerville, I'll defer to you if you'd like to add some comments.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. The sponsors at this time are asking for time. We are going to revisit our resolution and some of the language and wording, and we will be back before you at a later date with some revisions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very, very much. So we have a motion for time. Is there any discussion? Okay, do I have a second on the motion for time?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of time, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Sorry, I think there wasn't actually a motion. So I'd like to.
Oh, okay, you're correct. There was a motion. Ms. Somerville had asked for that. Oh, wait, before we proceed any further, Russ, I'm sorry, Mr. Neal.
Yes, sir. I'd like to ask the sponsors, I'm concerned on why the sponsors are bringing in the motion. I know this has been a highly charged matter in our community. One that has been, I think, politicized. I think we cannot be ignorant of the article and kind of like the meddling with the school board that dates back to the letter that went out January 11th, 2021, where members from the community, quote unquote, leaders in the community, spoke out against the board. And then a quick rebuttal was followed up by that letter by the teachers union, who said that this board has been the most transparent and engaging board that they've ever worked with. And let me give full disclosure. I have the utmost respect for all members, all parties that have been engaged in this. The Fowler family is near and dear to my family. But I see this as a matter that one with better discretion by the Beacon could have been handled differently. And I commend Dr. Akbar for stating that he could have used some different words. But I truly believe, without outside, we cannot be ignorant of the institutional practices within this city, that when folks are in leadership that may have an independent thought, there are moves to undermine that. That letter dated back on January 11th, and I spoke out against it at the school board then, was the height of what we call the institutional practices that create the disparities in here. I've got respect for the school board members that wrote their letter, but let me say this, they had their time. This board is doing the heavy lifting of over 50, 60 years of institutional racism that has crippled this city. And the work that they do is challenging, but they are doing that work. Board members before did their best. But you know what? You could drive through our city and see that they failed by looking at the disinvestment in some communities and the overinvestment in others. This board is doing their work. They were elected to run. Superintendent was elected to be the superintendent. But I believe that outside interference compromised whoever was going to be the superintendent before she was even hired. And I go back to that January 11th, 2021 letter. So I'm concerned on when we got our own issues on council, we have not even addressed the Brookings Institute report and the role that we play. I think we should, the school board members haven't gotten into our issues or personnel matters. We should not be getting into theirs because we, quiet as it's kept, we have business of our own that we haven't handled, that we have to handle. And so I'm concerned that of the political aspects of this. And I haven't even, let me stop there. I'm concerned. Like I said, I believe that when individuals have the best interests, and I've reached out, and I believe the hearts of all those involved are for our children. And I believe if outside influences leave the matter to be, that those things will be worked out. I believe that the work that they want to do is sincere. And like I said, Dr. Akbar, I've never heard someone in leadership admit where they have flaws and where they could do differently. Never. So he's done that. Let them move forward so that that relationship can be strengthened. But I truly question why council is getting involved in school board business when we are not handling our business. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to ask whoever is in the background and needs to mute, if you could please do that. We're picking up some background sound from someone. Mr. Fusco.
Is that me? Sorry, I couldn't hear. Is that, okay, thank you. Yeah, I just respectfully disagree with my colleague, Mr. Neal, in that to say that the last 50 or 60 years there's been problems, I think is probably accurate. That there's with any institution, anywhere, there's always going to be there's going to be opposing views on how it's done, how it's ran. It could be better. But I will tell you this, in terms of our Akron Public Schools, that they are always in the top 1 or 2, at least they have been in the past. They have always been, in terms of the state of Ohio, in terms of big city districts. And the thing of it is that we also found a way to build new schools. We found a way. It failed on the ballot before, and we found a way by working together. The mayor at the time, Mayor Plasquelik, and David James found a path to get schools built so that we can compete with our suburban school districts as well. And in terms of what they've done with regards to the business community, I think it's truly an amazing feat. And they've done a great job, our schools. And just to say that, there's been, a ton of problems and issues. I believe we could always say that. But the thing of it is I believe our schools and the work that has been done in the past has been very strong for us. And they've had many talented people there. So with that, I do appreciate, I want to say that asking our President Somerville requesting time. I do appreciate that. Thank you, President.
Please pardon me. I did not see order of hands as they went up. So I will begin with Councilwoman from the 5th Ward, if you would, please.
Thank you, Councilman Freeman. I want to echo many of the sentiments that Councilman Neal echoed. I think that just as easily as individuals felt a need to write a letter to the Beacon, we've all had our challenges with the Beacon over the years. I mean, we could sit here and trade notes all day long. And just as easy as we brought the resolution, it would have been just as easy to pick up a phone call and call Dr. Akbar, call Christine Fowler Mack, and have a conversation with them. The fact that they're trying to calm the noise and have a meeting with each other, I think this just makes it even more of a heavier lift for them. This just makes it heavier for them to be able to walk into a space and try to find a common ground to move our district forward with our kids in mind, and setting the political mess aside. This just is going to make it harder for them. And I think we should have thought about that. They are trying to get through the turmoil on this, but this is only going to make it worse. And I think we should have really had a conversation with them. I know the Fowler family. I'm very good friends with Ron Fowler Jr. And it troubles me that we didn't think to do that for whatever reason. Dr. Akbar has taken it upon himself, which many don't do, to say that he wish he would have chosen his words differently. How many people really do that? And I think we should just give them an opportunity to try to do what's right by the district and by our children. And I think I'm happy to see that that time is going to be taken and allow these two adults to try to work this out, or as they call it, leadership, work this out. Because Dr. Akbar wasn't the only one who had words. His were probably a little stronger than everyone else's. But again, we can't be the tone police. My tone to some people is off. But I mean, we are who we are. But I think we need to give them an opportunity to work through that. I really do. I think if we really care about this district and making sure that it moves forward, we need to give them an opportunity to right this ship. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'll come to Mr. Malik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I think that it is important that we take time on this and make sure that the language and the wording is appropriate. I think that it's important, especially when we're speaking to another independently elected body and branch of government. But I do want to also note that Akron Public Schools and the success of Akron Public Schools is existentially linked to the future of the city of Akron. And so I don't think it's inappropriate for council to weigh in when there are such significant issues as what we've seen in the last week, right? Because what we've seen in the last week is something that has been bubbling up for a long time. And I don't think I'm alone in having had those conversations, right? I've had those conversations with the parties involved, as many people on here have, right? And so this is not something that's out of the blue. But I think we also owe it to people we disagree with, but also to our friends when we see things that we think are inappropriate. And absolutely, when I saw the language that was used in the review, when I saw that printed in the Beacon, I was shocked, because to me, it went so far beyond evaluation to the point of disparaging and to the point of being unprofessional. I shared that privately, I shared that publicly, right? And I think that we all have an obligation to treat each other with respect, with dignity. And also, we also have a responsibility when it comes to our community for there not to be an untenable situation or an irreparable situation, I think was the language used between our school board president and the head of our public school system, the chief executive of our public school system. And so I think it is appropriate for us to discuss this. I think we can do so in a way that lowers the temperature, in a way that acknowledges that there is nuance to the situation, which acknowledges that constructive criticism can be important and can be okay, and that we don't want to tone police. But also when we see something that we all, I think, can say is, and I shouldn't say we all, but something that many believe is egregious or way over the line, I think it's appropriate to say that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe next in the queue would be Ms. Amobian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay? As one who served on the Akron School Board for 16 years and not only served, but served in leadership many times, one of the things that I found offensive and happened often is when other people started doing the work of trying to manage something that didn't belong to them. And that was offensive to me at that time. I find it offensive now only because I have chosen to speak with Dr. Akbar, and I plan to speak with Mrs. Fowler Mack when she returns, if she hasn't come back already, privately. And those are the ways that I think we can be helpful. And I know as a council, we have met on several occasions with the school board because we are joined at the hip. You know, as our school goes, our city will go. We know that. So there's no question that we have a relationship and should have one, and one is dependent on the other. But the question becomes, do we get involved in the governance of the school system? Now, I too was just as shocked and hurt and found all of this language public and things said offensive. And I have spoken to Dr. Akbar about it. And again, as I said, I will be talking to Mrs. Fowler Mack. But I plan to do it privately because I think that is where I can do my best work. As a matter of fact, we had a retreat and we were there privately as former board members, meeting with the current board and meeting with the superintendent. So we've done that kind of work also. So I was really shocked to see this happen. But I really want to remind folks that we do have a relationship, and it's a very critical relationship. That's not the question. Do we get involved in the governance with all of the issues that we have as a city? Now, one of the things I think we ought to be focusing on that I find really critically important to us is we need to stop the pursuit of traffic violators in this city. There's no reason that our police officers should be following anyone who is violating the traffic laws and it end up dead. You know, this is absolutely insane. If we're going to do anything, we're going to be changing that immediately and some other things related to that. So those are the kinds of things I think we need to be focusing on as a city because we have some serious challenges ourselves. And I have no doubt that with our private conversations with the board and with the superintendent, that we can help them work through these. And as my other colleagues have indicated, Dr. Akbar has spoken out and has stated that he could have used different language and he wish he had. And I think we need to respect that and kind of move on to the challenges that we have. Because I don't see why we can't change that practice or policy right away about chasing people charged with misdemeanors and end up dead with 90 bullets shot in their direction, 46 landed in the person's body. That is absolutely insane. So we have our hands full, folks, with the work that we have to do. So to think that we can take on the school system too is absolutely insane. So I am thankful to the president for delaying this as it should be. And I would not have signed on anyway. I made that very clear to her when she told me about it, because I believe that my conversation would be between those two individuals privately. And I have the utmost respect for both. And I do want our superintendent to have a good experience. And I think once we get beyond this, I think things can get turned around. And I hope to be a part of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So for everybody, the order of our queue at this time will be Mr. Kamer, Ms. Connor, Ms. Holland, and Ms. Neal. So Mr. Kamer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to weigh in. I'm glad that President Somerville and the sponsors are taking time because as I feel today, We should not be getting involved in this matter as a council body. I did like what Councilwoman Amobian said about having some direct conversation with the school board and possibly the superintendent. I believe the superintendent's probably doing a good job, but I haven't met her yet. And I have the opportunity next month that she'll be coming to Ward 7 to speak to my residents in regards to the new high school that's just been built. And we do have some other pressing issues in regards to APS. And I look forward to her coming next month, speaking to my residents, because I haven't had a superintendent ever come to one of my council meetings since I've been a council member. And I look forward to her coming and addressing my residents. I think it's going to be a good dialogue and a good meeting. And like I said, if I had to vote today, I would vote no. And that's because I would like to hear from my residents in regards to their questions in regards to Garfield, the Roswell Kent school that just got torn down, and what the future of that property is, and the future of Firestone Park Elementary, and some other issues that we have in regards to APS. So moving forward, like I said, I just wanted to weigh in and say that I would have voted no because I have not met the superintendent, but I do believe she's doing a good job. And then also, I think we do have a lot of other things we need to be discussing here on City Council that is very important to the city. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to add a few things. I have no personal relationship with Dr. Akbar or Superintendent Fowler. I just want to say, as a mother and a grandmother and someone who's worked with children, we spend our whole day teaching our children to be kind. We say it over and over again, and they look to us for those examples of kindness. And that did not happen. As a public official, we know that anything we put on paper is subject to being put in the headline of the Beacon Journal. And words hurt and words matter. I am grateful to Dr. Akbar for his apology, but we need to think about that on the front end. I don't want to be in the school board's business. I love being in council's business. But I think we always have an obligation to show kindness and be kind and let that reflect for our children. And that's all.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Holland, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I couldn't agree more with my colleague, Councilwoman Connor. I would add that I have had a great deal of feedback from residents of Ward 1. I agree with the decision to allow additional time to consider this and to potentially refine the language. It was important to me that within the recitals of this resolution includes the provision that Akron Public Schools is a separate statutory entity. And I would agree that in the ordinary course of things, they are not within our scope, that we do not, certainly not now and not ever, run the Akron Public Schools. And yet over and over again in my time on City Council, we have all agreed that the customer of public education is society, and that it is very much worth our time and our energy and our consideration to raise our hands and lift our voices, typically at the urgent request of constituents in support of things that matter with regard to public education and kids and families. And I don't think that it's necessary for us to assume the role of some sort of external superhuman resources office to weigh in on this and to encourage next right thing, particularly when we're talking about a relatively recent hired, carefully vetted, objectively qualified, first ever female superintendent of the Akron Public Schools, someone who, like many of us, I've never had the pleasure of meeting. But her credentials are well known to me because I took the time to look into this as the mother of 3 Akron Public School graduates and as somebody who myself attended Akron Public Schools. Because to my colleague, Councilman Malik's point, we should all care about what is happening with our schools. It is the future of our community. So I absolutely agree with my colleagues who point out that we shouldn't meddle, and meddling is not required here. And you're right, it's not our role. But I think that what we can do is bring some common sense and some kindness. We can simultaneously support and uplift members of the community who so generously serve on the school board, and also stand for the idea that there are well-known principles for how we measure professional performance, all absent in this instance, all really seemingly intentionally absent. And so I so appreciate everyone's remarks. I'll be giving this serious thought. I think it's a wise and prudent move to take some time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holland. Next, we're going to start a new round of a conversation now that we have fulfilled everybody's desire to speak, and I'll come to Ms. Somerville.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I first want to make it very clear is that I have had many conversations around this topic. I have had a private conversation with Board President NJ Akbar, and I've had a lot of other conversations with members of the community. And so I want to say, and I want to make it very clear, when I read the article, I cringed. There were some really strong and hurtful words that were used, you know, when we're referring to the first African-American woman superintendent, and to call her a liar, insubordinate, and a failure is really, really troubling. And although I appreciate that Board President NJ Akbar has apologized in a sense by saying he could have used different words, the problem is that you cannot walk those words back. So the words have been said, the destruction has happened. And so again, this resolution really is just to say, and I think we can all agree, it is difficult to lead in these times. When you look at the fact that, you know, we're leading through a time when gun violence is on a all-time high. We're leading in a time of a global pandemic. You know, we're leading in a time of a lot of other challenges. So knowing that it's difficult to lead is why we must be more supportive of leaders who are in position. And so again, this resolution is not to get into the business of Akron Public Schools, because again, we know that there might be some issues, right? There might be some things that our superintendent needs to improve on, and that the board needs to improve on, and that we know that constructive criticism is helpful, right? Because we all benefit from that. But it's the way that we do it, and we should do it in a respectful way. We should do it in a way that the community and our students benefit from, because everyone is watching. And that is really what the purpose of this resolution was to do. Again, I am a mother. I am a mother of a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. And so to see this play out publicly hurt my heart. So thank you so much for the sponsors who signed on. And I want to thank everybody for their feedback as it relates to this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Neal, I'll come to you, and then Ms. Baylor, you'll follow Mr. Neal, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like for us to save this recording so that as council, we could come back and listen to the words we shared regarding this matter.
Yeah.
You know, the question comes to mind first, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Does our school system reflect our city, or does our city reflect our school system?
Okay, thank you.
As council, we have the direct responsibility as a parent of the school system to make sure that we make the communities that they reside in as safe as possible, that we provide them the wraparound support that they need as much as possible. That is our responsibility. We have had the opportunity to do that with these ARPA dollars. But as council, in my opinion, we have failed. We have not even reached out to the school board to have a discussion on how we can work together to provide that wraparound support. So does the school system reflect the city, or does the city reflect the school system? We have an obligation. To my colleague, I agree with a lot that was said, but I want to point out something that Councilwoman Amobian said about getting involved in the governance. I'm sure that was a message to the school board, but let that be a message to the community at large. Those people on the school board were elected to do the business of the school board. Let them do that work. Quit meddling with it. The superintendent was hired to lead the district. And I'm sure, based on the character of all individuals, that will take place. But let's act like all of a sudden we don't understand what really goes on in this city and the politics in this city. I hear about being respectful and whatnot. Do we forget what just happened with the judge naming the community center after Judge James R. Williams, and what took place with members on this council, the disrespect for a man of that legacy? Come on, y'all, let's not play. The city doesn't heal when we play these type of political games. So, I am comforted. I have texted and spoken to both parties as well. I know the character of the individuals. Again, I appreciate Dr. Akbar publicly stating that he can do things differently, because as it goes in this city, for when one's in leadership, that's a rare quality, very rare quality, very rare quality. But as many of my colleagues are saying, we got enough business to handle of our own. Let's handle our business, and I'm sure they'll handle theirs. And then when we could come together and work together to handle business, we can do that. Because, and I want to publicly say this, because I've made comment to both the superintendent and the school board, because I think I may be more intimately involved with the school in my district than most. The school in my district has challenges because of the challenges that come from the community into the schools. The disparities that challenges and that families are dealing with out in the community, that school system is dealing with. And in the school in my district, there's been a lot of turnover in experienced leadership. So I need to work very closely with both the superintendent and the board. And to my pleasure, there's a willingness, and they've already done some great things, but we've got a lot of heavy lifting to do. So shiny buildings do not reflect that all is well inside those buildings, y'all. And we've got to do our part as city council to make sure that we support the district as best we can by handling the business that we need to handle. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Baylor, please.
Can you guys hear me? Because I can't hear you very good. Okay, I just want to say nobody's trying to manage the school board or any of that. That's not what any of this is all about. And as many of you know, I was born and raised in Akron, Ohio. And as a resident and a citizen of Akron, a product of the Akron Public Schools, having sent my children to Akron Public Schools, also having taught in Akron Public Schools, and then serving as a board member, I have a legitimate concern about the way the description and everything came about. Not that Dr. Akbar is a bad person, but what he said was not that great. And I think that's a legitimate concern. And I find the whole thing entirely disruptive. And how is this discussion improving the education of our children who go to Akron Public Schools? How is this going to help them? I know as a school board member, that's our focus, is doing the best we can to make sure every child has an excellent and high achieving education. So all of this is nowhere in going in that direction. So I'm speaking from a resident and a concerned citizen, not from a city council member and things like that. And people have come to me in the community and they are concerned about it. So, you know, we can keep our conversations directed towards improving the education of our students. I think that would be a better use of energy and time. But I'm glad that we are going to take time on this and refine it, and hopefully all the things that have come out in this conversation and things like that can be different at the end of the day. So that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Holland, I saw you did have your hand up. It's down now. I just want to make sure I don't miss you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Again, I agree with my colleagues in this regard. I would only add that there are very few things happening in our community right now that are not interconnected with all other things. We have 50 years of sociological study, that tells us there is a way that we systematically analyze and provide performance feedback in the workplace. It's just not new. That doing so in a way that provides an objective measure of job performance is a way of doing it fairly and providing it in a constructive way that allows for growth and teamwork and development and meeting a mission goal. It's not new, and it's also not rocket science. What concerns me in all of this is that there appears to be sort of a, well, it didn't happen to me, or it's not my issue, and therefore I'm not touching this because it just doesn't matter that much to me. And I would respectfully submit that it shouldn't have to happen to you for it to matter to you. And that just as in so many other things these days, all the kids are watching. We do our best to protect our children and to let them know that that they're safe, that we've got them, that we're doing all we can to keep things safe and to offer some hope and promise. But the reality is that this is a delicate web that we live in. When we know better, we should be doing better. And respectfully, an apology is, well, that's great. But for anyone who has ever experienced an injury to reputation and dignity and integrity, that, well, I think we can all understand that this is complex and deserves our consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Samples, please.
Just briefly, I don't think any of us are saying that we don't care because it hasn't happened to any of us. I don't think that's what we're saying. I don't think that's what any of us have said. For me, I'm saying give the parties an opportunity to meet and have a conversation about how to right this ship if we really care about moving the district forward and doing better for our kids. We could all go back and find moments where an elected official has said things and never apologized for them. We can go back and talk about a colleague who told council members to sit down and shut up and nothing happened. We could drag up a whole bunch of stuff where people never even apologized. And it's not even about the damage being done. He was man enough to apologize and said he wished he would have chose better words. So we have to commend him, or at least taking that step. And for he and his colleague, attorney Derek Hall, who's the vice president, to say they're having a meeting with her so they can move the district forward. Isn't that what we're saying is the most important? Is our kids moving this district forward? So that should be it. We care about moving this district forward, making sure it's a better place for our kids. And yes, we all have said things, all of us have said things that we wish we could take back at some time or another, but he actually apologized for it. So I think we need to let them try to figure this out. And I have no doubt that they all can figure it out. They were duly elected just like the rest of us was. And I think that what they are doing over there is commendable. Now listen, let's give them an opportunity to do it the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Fusco.
Yes, thank you. I agree that many of us, and I for one as well, sometimes we would ask for a do-over if we could, and that happens. However, I sincerely believe that all of us, including myself, one who certainly hasn't kept it a secret that I've been around for a while, we could use training in terms of training, and their responsibility is obviously different than ours. So of course we shouldn't do that. But maybe what we need to do is look at, and including ourselves in terms of training with regards to law, in terms of, many different things. Obviously, those, and I believe Nancy Holland was speaking to that in terms of some best practices, in terms of evaluating folks, so on and so forth, and how that's done. And I don't know the experience of individuals in terms of the school board and evaluating individuals, but it's not just something that you just go into, having been one to evaluate employees. You just don't go into it lightly, and I'm not making excuses or anything whatsoever. But what I am saying, I guess, is that maybe we ourselves, and just maybe just a nudge in terms of the school board, maybe looking at, because we are asked, all of us are asked to be experts in so many different fields, and all of us have something to lend. We all have diverse backgrounds in terms of what we bring to the table, which is what makes us strong. However, the thing of it is we're not trained in terms of all these different areas that we're asked to have opinion on. And so I guess that's something to consider moving down the road, obviously not in reference to this, but maybe that's something that we can think about moving forward. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So Ms. Somerville had said she'd hoped we could take time on that. So I am looking for a motion for time.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, and a second for time. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I know.
Mr. Chair, could I do a roll call on that? I'm not sure I heard everyone correctly.
Yeah,
Thank you.
please. Thank you.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Yeah.
Malik.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, very good. We'll take time on that. And just as everybody was talking, first of all, thank you. Good civil conversation. I remember my mom, who was a wise person, told me one time, she said, Mikey, sticks and stones can break your bones, but names can never hurt you. It sounded good at the time. So I just think it's a good lesson for all of us to guard our mouth and to watch our words. And, when we're able to say things and make things right, that's always good. So, but thank you for the discussion. I do not believe we have anything else coming before us. So we are adjourned at 2:45. Thank you.
Our next committee meeting of the day is the Public Service Committee. Those committee members are Mosley, Kamer, Holland, Lombardo, and McKittrick. We do have all committee members present whenever you're ready, Madam Chair.
I am ready. If I could call public service to order, if I could get approval of our previous meeting minutes.
Motion to
So
approve.
moved. Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have a few pieces before us. Sarah, is there something else that was added to this agenda that I may not have? I have starting with 4 through 11. Is that
4
right?
through 11 is correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. Our first piece is an ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of Ascot Parkway between the termini of State Road and the cul-de-sac by paving, grading, constructing and reconstructing curbs, driveway approaches, and installing roof drain pipes and declaring an emergency. Mr. Letto?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. Yes, Ascot Parkway is a project we completed last year. It's been just over a year, so the contractor's warranty period is completed. This is to assess the abutting property owners for the improvements of this 1 mile improvement at Ascot Parkway. With the timing of this, I would ask if we could suspend the rules so these things could be placed on the tax rolls through Summit County. Some of these property owners have agreed or took the option to pay the full assessment up front. But with that, I will take any questions about this project.
Okay. Any questions from committee members? Any questions from council members? I'm seeing none. Can I get a motion for suspension of the rules?
Motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next ordinance is, as soon as I find out where it went. Give me a second. I got too many screens open. One second. Where am I? Oh, here we go. Ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of South Hawkins Avenue between the termini of Ino Avenue and Mall Avenue by resurfacing and declaring an emergency. Mr. Letto?
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of committee. This is the same explanation. This was an ODOT resurfacing project, about 3.5 miles of resurfacing, obviously from Ward 4 all the way down through Ward 9 and past Mud Run Golf Course. So with that, this has been over a year old after the completion of this project, and we'd like to pass this to improve or place the assessments on the abutting property owners.
Okay. Any questions from any committee members? Any questions from council members? Seeing none, can I get a motion for suspension of the rules?
I'll make the motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Our next piece is an ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of Main Street between the termini of Miller Avenue and Barges Street and Broadway Street between the termini of Miller Avenue and Barges Street by paving, grading, constructing, and reconstructing curbs, concrete sidewalks, and driveway approaches, installing street lighting and roof drain pipes, and planting trees and declaring an emergency. Mr. Letto?
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of committee. Yes, this project was, as we called it, the main Broadway interchange project. We did do assessments on the abutting property owners on Main and Broadway that were affected. This project there again it's just over a year old, and we would like to pass this to place the assessments on the abutting property owners.
Okay. Any questions from committee members? Any question from council members? Can I get a motion for suspension of the rules?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Next piece is ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of South Main Street between the termini of State Street and Mill Street by paving, grading, constructing, and reconstructing curbs, concrete sidewalks, storm sewers, sanitary sewers, water mains, and utility vaults, installing street lighting and planting trees and declaring an emergency. Mr. Letto?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. Yes, this is our Main Street Phase 1 project, as you said, between Mill Street and to the south. This is to place the assessments on the abutting property owners.
Okay. Any questions from committee members? Any questions from council members? Okay, can I get motion for suspension of the rules?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next ordinance is ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of Perkins Street between the termini of Howard Street and State Route 8 by resurfacing and declaring an emergency. Mr. Leto?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. This was a resurfacing project that was funded by ODOT on Perkins. And this is to levy the assessments on the budding property owners.
Okay. Any questions from committee members? Any question from council members? Can I get a motion for suspension of the rules?
So moved.
You have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes
Aye.
have it. Next piece is ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of Romick Road between the termini of I-76, Vernon Odom Boulevard by paving, grading, constructing, and reconstructing curbs, concrete sidewalks and driveway approaches, installing roof drain pipes and street lighting, and planting trees and declaring an emergency. Mr. Leto?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. Yes, this was the construction project of Roaming Road, obviously the former Rolling Acres Mall, which is now Amazon. So this was a full improvement, and this is to levy the assessments against the budding property owners.
Okay. Any questions from committee members? Any questions from council members? Seeing none, can I get a motion for suspension of the rules?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Last piece is an ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of West Market Street between the termini of Revere Road to Hawkins Avenue and Portage Path to State Route 59 by resurfacing and declaring an emergency. Oh, wait, we got another one after this. Mr. Leto?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. This is the resurfacing, obviously the limits you just said from downtown out to Portage Path, and then from just past Hawkins all the way out to the Corp line, which is Revere Road. This was an ODOT project, and this is to levy the assessments on the budding property owners.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions from committee members? Any questions from council members? Can I get a motion for suspension of the rules?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
now this is our last piece. Ordinance determining to proceed with the levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets in the city between certain termini and providing street cleaning services and street lighting, approving the report of the Assessment Equalization Board and declaring an emergency. Mr. Leto?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. As you said, we are approving the report by the Assessment Equalization Board. This is our annual special assessments to our property owners. There has been no increase in the cost. It's the same as last year. And with that, I would ask passage.
Okay. Any questions from committee members? Any questions from council members? Seeing none, can I get a motion for suspension of the rules?
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. We have nothing else coming before us. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Our next committee of the day is the Public Safety Committee. Those committee members are Kamer, Mosley, Lombardo, Malik, and McKittrick. Looks like we do have all members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, I'd like to move forward and call the public safety meeting to order, please. All members are present. We did host a meeting last week. Can I get approval of those minutes, please?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. I'm not sure if Councilman Neal is on with us, but we do have one old piece in front of us. Councilman Neal, what are your wishes?
Had a week's time. I haven't heard from anyone. I think the resolution and the need for it is pretty straightforward. I'd like for the committee to pass it out so we can vote on it as committee as a whole, sir, and move to not just pass a resolution, but actually use it as a catalyst to do the heavy lifting that's associated with it.
All right, thank you, Councilman. I appreciate that. And I will stand and say that my position is a no vote, but I will vote yes to get out of the committee. Like I said last week, I would definitely support a resolution that said mayor and labor relations. I just don't think city council should be getting involved in any union within the city of Akron. So that's my stance. But I will see if there's any other questions or comments from committee members, and we'll move forward. Any committee members? All right. Any other council members online with us? All right. So like I said, I'll make the recommendation to suspend the rules so I can get it out of the committee. And then we all can have our chance to vote on it this evening. So I'll make the motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I respect your position of not wanting to engage the union, but if you remember, it was about 2 years ago almost that this was brought in, the original resolution. And at that time, and having conversations with Mr. Cozart and everything, he stated that we don't have those problems here in Akron. And here we sit a few weeks from, you know, a young man from our community being shot at 91 times. We now know that he was hit 46 times. And it is my belief that if we had started engaging ourselves in these race equity talks, not where we pass legislation and force it down the police department's throat, like Chief Ball kind of let us know he felt we were doing at one time. Not what we're dictating to, but we're talking with. We're working with to come to a common understanding of what it means to have equitable policy and practice. It's my belief that we could have started to change the culture in our city governance and in the police department to where Jalen Walker would have been looked at differently. When we say the city, that encompasses all those groups that you're talking about. You know, this resolution is going to cover every area of work that we touch. So I mean, I respect, I have to respect if that's the way you feel, but I think this goes back to us understanding what it really means to have a discussion about race equity and what does it mean. It's not just, we know that because of the Brookings Institute, it got us really talking and focusing on race, but it's about equitable policy across the board. And it's not until we, and all of this is a fancy way of talking about having healthy relationships. When we have healthy relationships, a lot of the stuff we talked about on this Zoom call over the past few meetings, those things don't take place. And if they do take place, you know what? We can genuinely go to someone and say, you know what? Forgive me. And that's what we've been talking about, allowing, but when we don't have those relationships and folks either consciously or subconsciously, and most of us, this is the thing that I want us to understand. We're a part of an institution that has a lot of historical, institutionalized dogmas that we're trying to change. And those don't change by themselves. Let me say this and then I'll stop, Mr. Chairman. Pretty soon, we're going to have to draft legislation to deal with facial recognition. It's just a matter of time, okay? But do you know that they found that even with that technology, that there is racial bias because it's passed on from those who created the technology? And as legislators, we're going to have to be educated, as my colleague, Mr. Fusco talked about. We have to educate ourselves. We're asked to be experts on so many things. But the most ultimate thing that we can do standing in the gap between government and our constituents as we come together to work is have a healthy relationship with those we serve and those that we have to legislate on their behalf that serve our community, is have that healthy relationship. And the basic premise behind this 2 years ago and now is to create the infrastructure for that to happen, sir. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. All right, so we did vote on that, and moving on to our new piece, we do have a resolution offered by Councilwoman Mosley and Councilwoman Amobian. We spoke a little bit about this today during our Reimagining Public Safety Committee. It's a resolution urging the city administration to purchase and utilize dashboard cameras for the use in City of Akron Police Department vehicles, including patrol cars, vans, wagons, and detective vehicles, urging the purchase and utilization of these additional body-worn cameras for use of all City of Akron Police Department reserve officers and detectives, and declare an emergency. And I'll call on Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Chairman Kamer. As we spoke about earlier today, we see the need for having dash cameras in all of our police vehicles, and even taking it a step further, urging the administration to address the need for more body-worn cameras for our reserve officers. And I think it was mentioned earlier today, even as I didn't even realize the SWAT team does not have body-worn cameras. So making sure that that something is in place for those officers within this resolution is very important. And I'm hoping that my colleagues will support this and we can bring this out as suspension of the rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And obviously, if it's okay with you, I would like my name added.
Absolutely.
Thank you, as a co-sponsor. And the only thing I would say is, like I said earlier today, is I would encourage the administration to work fast and swift to try to get this rolling out as soon as possible. I understand we can all apply for funding at different sources, but I do think we can find the money and start some kind of program out, especially with some companies that are out there that even would come in and do pilot programs. So thank you for bringing this in, and I'm definitely on board with it. I do see the other co-sponsor, Councilwoman Amobian, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Certainly co-sign everything Councilwoman Mosley has stated. In addition to that, I think you may have seen the press release today that there was more conversation this weekend with the chief of police and the mayor. And the plan is, and I think they're going to look into moving this as quickly as possible and hoping to get enough information within a week or two to look at purchasing the best qualitative equipment out there. So I certainly support this. And thank you.
They just want to just.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward. Sorry about that. So Marco was online talking. So any other questions or comments from committee members? I apologize. All right, so can I get a recommendation from the committee?
Can I make a motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report?
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. That is all that is in front of us today for public safety. With that, we are adjourned.
That is our final committee meeting of the day. Council will meet at 7 p.m. tonight. Thank you.